Hello. Some of you guys were wondering what was going on with my mom. So I figured it'd be easier rather than sitting there typing on the tablet or on the computer or on my phone to tell you face to face what was going on. Yesterday morning, well, afternoon technically, she didn't want to get up, so I think she got up around just before noon. I observed a seizure when she got up. She couldn't get up, so I sat her up gently, and she was okay. Took her pill, then had a seizure. When she has her seizure, she kind of does this, and it's not fun. I posted a video on her little Facebook group that I have. That's for like really close friends and family. So her seizure lasted about 30 seconds to a minute. She came out of it like that, no problems. Then, got her top off, put it in the laundry, got her up, got her into the bathroom, got her pants down, diaper, everything, got her on her potty chair. She was sitting there. I was like, all right, clear the bed off, changed all her linens, got everything, started to go into the laundry. Turned around and I looked at her, and she started doing this again, where her eyes almost like roll up. She's like this, but her head is like this, and she kind of stiffens. Well, her hand was down at her side. It was on the potty chair. I'll show you what her hand was doing. It was on her potty chair, the arm of her potty chair, and she started going like this. And then her other hand, I grabbed, at that point I was like, okay, I'm going to have to record this one just so that I know I have evidence of this is what she's doing, because I'm probably going to have to send her. So I threw her wrap around her and grabbed my phone, started recording. Well, she instantly started doing this on her wrap. And she does this thing with her hand where she just she grabs the edge or any kind of thing she has on her. If it's her skin, she will actually cause herself to bruise. She will rub her boob or her arm between her finger. Like, she'll grab whatever is loose skin and she will rub it till she bruises. And she has a pretty good grip, especially mid-seizure. So she was in and out, and it lasted, when all was said and done, about an hour. She had lucid moments, but they were lasting anywhere from a minute to 5 minutes. And this continued for an hour. And in the midst of this, I called her doctor. Her doctor isn't there on Tuesdays. She's there Monday, Wednesday, and then a half day on Friday. And Dr. Tupa was there, but he's only there for a half day on Tuesdays and Thursdays because he goes to the hospital. And then he's at the hospital on, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday while Dr. G is there. So they, sorry, my eyelash feels funny. They said, send her. And I was like, okay, Violet, stop barking. She sees cars and she starts barking. I was like, okay, well, I call 911. They're like, okay, what's your emergency? Da da da. Went through the whole thing. They asked me to do this test where I asked her to smile. When she smiled, she went like this. Like, this half of her face, the right half of her face worked fine. The left half of her face, not so much. So, and I had noticed at the end of my recording, she did this. Like, I can't even do it. Like, all in here was all really, really tight, and her jaw was almost like it was locked. She was like, with her chin jutted out. And I'm like, what is wrong with your face? So I'm like, Mom, can you drop your chin down to your chest? Thinking that she would do this. Instead, she went, there was no process. Like, she couldn't process between what I was saying and actually doing it. So when her seizure was over, I got her bathed. I was like, okay, I called 911 after I got her bathed and got her most of the way dressed, because I was like, you're not going to the hospital covered in pee, because that's just going to lead to all kinds of nastiness, because they don't really bathe you in the hospital unless you ask, and she won't ask. So got her dressed. You know, she was about halfway dressed when I was calling 911 and did these tests. Had her smile, made her say it was something like she sells seashells by the seashore, but it wasn't that difficult. It was something else. I don't remember what the hell they had me do. She knew her name. She doesn't know the date. She never knows what month it is, who the president is, what year it is, especially at the beginning of the year. She, like, towards the end of last year, she knew it was 2014. This year, right now, she doesn't know it's 2015. She'll still say, she'll point blank say, I don't know. It's because of the dementia, and we know that, and it takes a while. I mean, when I was filling out her paperwork this past week to get paid, I put down 2014. I don't expect her to know this. And I was telling that to them at the hospital, but I'll get to that part. So the ambulance comes in and they're like, well, if she has any CBC or CBA or whatever the hell anagram they use, initials they use for seizures, heart attacks, stuff like that, they said we have to take her to the closest hospital. I said, then you're not taking her because I refuse to send her to ACMC. And that is the closest hospital. It's right up the road. And they were like, well, where do you want to send her? I was like, send her to Geneva. Send her to any UH hospital, but not ACMC. Her records are at UH. ACMC will not be able to get her records. It won't be readily there for them. She's been there before, but I don't want to deal with it. Geauga and Geneva and all the UH hospitals will have all her information right there, including her insurance. So I don't have to send her card with her. I don't have to send anything with her. All I need to send with you is her in case of emergency package, which is 3 pages long. It has her medication list, her sliding scale with a brief history. It has a permission slip that these are the people that you can talk to, so she doesn't have to sign all those forms when she gets there. It's literally all filled out for them right there in that little packet. I even included a small note that said, any changes, any doctors, call me, period. Had her sign it too. So that way they couldn't question me. Even though I have her code thing, her code never changes, so I can call them at any time and say, I need the records, this is the code, you know, because it's printed right there on their bracelets. I'm like, okay, well, in the meantime, my girlfriend Mary, my superstar, my rock star, she always feels like a rock star when I mention her in my videos. She texts me, she's like, hold on, I have to get to it. She had a mole this morning, so we were texting back and forth this morning. She said, and I never delete my messages from her because she's just, yeah. She put, oh my God, just saw any better. Are you okay? Do you need me to come out there? So I immediately called her. I'm like, no, I'm fine, da 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 da. And she's like, I'm going to come out there. And I started crying. And I'm like, I can't do this when she's sick like this. I can't do it. And I feel bad because it's hard. Like, I haven't had a day off since April. This is my first full day off I've had since April. Like, completely mom-free. I didn't have to get her up. I didn't have to get her dressed. I didn't have to do her meds. I didn't have to, stress. So, this is not the way I'd like to have my day off, because I'm still stressed, because I'm fielding phone calls, etc., etc. Well, she came out, and in the interim of her leaving her house and her showing up here, she lives like an hour away. The ambulance calls me. I was actually in the shower because I was like, well, if you're coming out, I need to get a shower because I need to get a shower. Ambulance calls me. I'm like, hello? Because I'm going to answer any phone calls once my mom gets an ambulance. And they're like, this is the ambulance driver. We got about 3 minutes out of Geneva, away from Geneva Hospital, and they called and informed us that their CAT scan isn't working. Okay. Well, you were adamant on not going to ACMC, but that's going to be our only choice unless you want me to take her to Madison Urgent Care. I'm like, is it a UH facility? She goes, no. I'm like, then no. Bring her back here. I'll transport her. Well, let me call you back. Let me call my boss. She calls her boss. Calls me back. at this point, I'm so aggravated. I had finished my shower. She calls me back, and I'm like, my question is, why does she doesn't need a CAT scan. I told you, she has a UTI. She needs to be tasked to find out what drugs to give her for the UTI. That's all she needs. She doesn't need, I'm like, I could have sent you with the urine sample. Period. She needs to be cast. That's the only thing she needs. She doesn't need an x-ray. She doesn't need, well, we already have her hooked to a heart monitor and an IV, so we would have to take her to someplace with the nuclear medicine or whatever the hell it is. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, then send her to Geauga, because it's either that or send her to Cleveland. That's it. Those are your choices. Cleveland or Geauga. Has to be a UH facility. She's never been to Conneaut, so, and I don't even know how to get to Conneaut, let alone where the hospital is. And my girlfriend was telling me, my friend Dana, she goes, well, Conneaut has a UH, and I'm like, yeah, but they're probably not equipped for her. Geauga is equipped for her. So, they're like, okay, well, we're going to meet and we're going to transport in your driveway. We're going to transfer her from the original bus that came, because they're 911 bus, to another bus. I'm like, okay, no problem. Whatever. Well, the guy, I was like, whatever, fuck you, bye. Click. Hung up. I was pissed at this point. I was already stressed, and it just made it worse. And so the guy that was in the ambulance calls me back, and he's like, well, we're rendezvousing closer to where we're at because they could meet us closer. And I was like, okay, no problem. Just keep her warm, whatever. My girlfriend shows up, my boss calls, and they're like, hey, what's going on? And I'm like, okay, this is what's going on. So as I'm telling my boss on the phone, I'm all like, okay, this is what's going on, because, my girlfriend and I told her, I was like, my girlfriend just walked in. She's like, oh, I can't play back. I'm like, no, just give me a second, because my dogs are going ape shit, because they're like, oh my god, Ruthie's here, and oh my god, Mary's here, and oh my god, Carl's here. They're all excited. And, so I'm like telling her, I'm like, this is what's going on in the hospital, the whole situation with the CAT scan, etc., etc. And Carl and Mary sitting there like, are you kidding me? And I'm like, and they start rearranging my movies, and putting them out of order. And they're like, we were here. But getting back to what I was saying, I digress again. My videos are ridiculous. I know. I'm sorry. I get a go bag ready for mom. Change of clothes, a jacket, scarf, etc. She had her shoes on her, so we're good for that. And I was like, all right. So we go down there, and Carl drives not like a maniac, because he's a good driver, but he must drive really fast, because we got there like probably within 20 minutes of the emergency vehicle, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me, but okay, whatever. So we get in there, and me and Carl, Mary, they switched drivers. Mary took Ruthie home. Me and Carl went into the hospital, and we look at the board, and the board is like, there's nothing behind her. There's like a nurse's name maybe, and it just says attending, because they were switching shifts for the doctor. And I'm like, they don't have labs, x-rays, cathing, nothing on there. Because I know how to read, and I know all the symbols for the UH Systems boards. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe she just got here. And mom said, yeah, I just got here. I'm like, okay. And Carl's all like, how was your ride, etc., etc. And we're, talking to her, and she seemed to be really good. Like, when she left here, she was fine. And I told him, I was like, they're probably not going to keep her, but I want them to cath her. I want them to find out. Because I knew she had a UTI. I knew. I could tell by when I changed body there, and I could tell by when she would go to the bathroom, she would kind of, and I would ask her if it hurt, and she'd say not really, but she was having some kind of like a pressure issue. I'm thinking, like, instead of like it hurting, it was just she was having a pressure, which is common, and she gets frequent severe UTIs to where they cause her to have seizures. Any infection, be it the common cold, the flu, you could get a cut on your hand or a cut on your foot, and if it gets infected, it's going to affect your brain. It's going to totally affect your brain. Well, what's the deal with your brain? You can have seizures, you can have strokes, you can have any kind of thing. And that's in a normally healthy person. Like, it really does affect your brain. Think about when you have the flu. You get really, really nauseous, you get sick, you don't feel good, you feel real foggy. I mean, I get giggly as shit when I'm sick. It's just like I'm giggly and I hurt and I just want to sleep. There's nothing to it. I just want to sleep. That's why I'm glad I hardly ever get sick, knock on wood. But in an older person, a person who's not in the best health, it's tenfold. So she gets it so much worse than everybody else. So needless to say, and I'm in the interim of waiting and doing all this stuff. I'm calling my boss. I'm calling her caseworker. I'm like, this is what's going on. And I told her, I was like, well, it affects her brain every time she has some kind of infection. She has a cold, whatever. She has a seizure. And I knew it was coming. I didn't think it was going to be this massive. I thought it would just be a little seizure. I'd do because I was actually going to get up early this morning, get her up, cath her, and send a urine sample with my husband to drop off at the doctor's office, because the doctor's office is right there in town. That's right where he works, so it's not a big deal. I can just, have him drop it off. They could call in a prescription and we'd be good. Well, they obviously didn't have to do that. We got to the hospital. We went up to the nurse station and they're like, waiting. Can I help you? Yeah, I need to see who's treating my mom. Who's your mom? Laura Hovnak, room 18. Oh, that's whatever her name was. I'll send her right in. And the girl, she was like, 18 wants to talk to you. That isn't the girl that came into our room. The nurse practitioner is the one who came in the room. Okay, cool. I'm not keen on nurse practitioners. They try to make me go to them all the time. It's nothing against them, but a lot of times they don't. I'd rather have a nurse treat me than a nurse practitioner, in all honesty. Because, yeah, they can write prescriptions, they can make decisions, but sometimes they just don't listen. And nurses will listen. Nurses' aides will listen more. Doctors, especially because, like, when we're up at the nurses' station, I saw Garlisi. And he is the best doctor. If you ever have to go to the emergency room at Geauga Hospital, he is the have-all, be-all of emergency room doctors. He treated my eye when I had a corneal abrasion. When I had all my abdomen pain, he treated me for that. He's seen Mom numerous times. When she broke her ankle, he saw her. I mean, he's great. He is by far and away the best ER doctor I have ever had the pleasure to have. He has a good bedside manner. He isn't one of those doctors who stands there with the chart and goes, well, I don't know what's wrong with you, but I'm going to give you this Zofran or this whatever and send you home. Really? Because I am in absolute agony and you're going to give me an anti-nausea medication that haven't vomited. I don't vomit. I can't stand throwing up and I can't stand being sick. I wasn't vomiting. I was fine, except for this excruciating pain in my abdomen that just wrapped around in my back, and it felt like end-stage labor pain. Oh, you have phantom abdominal discomfort. Well, I went in, like, a month later, every time I got sick, like the flu, anything like that, and I was getting sick often back then. Anytime I got sick, I wound up with this excruciating pain in my abdomen. And Garlisi's like, I'll tell you what, I have no idea what's wrong with you. You need to tell your doctor, my regular doctor, at the time, he goes, you need to tell him that you need to go see an endo. Go have an endoscopy done, because you're going to need it. He goes, it might be ulcers. That's something that I can't diagnose here. And I was like, okay. But he didn't give me, Zofran for nausea or whatever. He's like, just take whatever will help you feel comfortable, max dose, just take that. And until you can get to see the endo. I was fine. But this doctor is amazing. So when this nurse comes in, she's like, oh, well, she did all the, pull on my hands, push your feet up, don't let me push your feet down. follow my finger, which I did all that already. Carl and I did that when we walked in. We asked her, they asked her the date, they asked her name. I was like, you have to ask her things that change, but not as often, like the month, the days of the week. You can't ask her that. You have to ask her, how old is your daughter? And she actually answered that right. I was surprised because my birthday just passed in January. So you have to go through like this whole system with her. And I asked the nurse, she goes, well, I'm going to go talk to the attending. I'm like, is Garlici on duty? And she's like, another 15 minutes. And I'm like, ah, crap, we're going to get a crappy doctor. I'm like, oh, well, hurry up so that, Garlici can come in here. And she's like, oh, no, he's not going to be attending until another 15 minutes is up. I'm like, oh, okay, so he's just coming on duty. Get him fresh. I'm cool with this. So we went outside, we came back in, went outside again, came back in, they were cathing her, then they took her for x-ray, and then Garlici came in, and he's like, so what's going on? I was like, she has a UTI. I'm telling you that right now. She has a UTI. He goes, okay. He goes, you're her caregiver, right? He goes, I know you're her daughter, but you're her caregiver, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm her caregiver. I said, I know that these seizures are brought on, her seizures are being brought on. We charted everything out. And I have a big, large grid calendars that, like, the grids are like this big. And I said, I write down every seizure. If she's got an attitude, if she's crying for no reason, her sugars, how much water she's drank, how many brief changes we've had. I mean, I write down everything. If her bed's soaked, like, I have a little key. If she's dry when she wakes up, if her bed's wet, like if there's only like a little bit of pee on the top bed pad, like I have a whole system of like little keys, like SW whatever. He's like, okay, he looks at it, he's like, okay, so her seizures are being caused by an infection. Okay, cool. He goes, that it happens. I'm like, finally, somebody who gets it besides her regular GP. Her GP totally gets it. Most other doctors like, that doesn't affect your brain. Yeah, it does, guys. Yeah, it does. I'm not even a doctor. I get asked all the time. Every time she goes to the hospital. What field are you in? What medical field are you in? Are you a nurse? Are you a doctor? And they're not being sarcastic. They're being serious. They're like, are you a neurological nurse? Are you a psych nurse? And I'm like, are you, like, seriously asking, or are you being facetious? Because I'm not a nurse. I am what's called a PCP, which is a personal care provider. That is my classification through my job. But I probably, just in dealing with her, I could probably be like a diagnostician if I needed to be, which isn't actually a field. But, so, they're like, okay, the nurse practitioner comes back in about half hour later. Wow, that urine took a really long time to come back. And I was hitting refresh a whole bunch of times. My buddy Carl's like, oh, so you were freshening her urine. Well, I mean, the jokes, like, having them there, I just think whatever deity has blessed me yesterday, because I have the best friends. And my face was hurting. And, like, my face was hurting. I was trying to put my makeup on while I was on the phone with my girlfriend, Mary, and I was crying. I kept having to, like, redo my eyeliner because I was laughing so hard my face hurt. And I don't know what I would do without them. I have really, really good friends. And I'm thankful for them. And I love them. But anyway, they obviously didn't want to leave me there alone, and they finally did leave when, Dan showed up after work, and I was like, okay, well, Mom started falling asleep. They finally fed her at like 8 o'clock. So she ate, and she was like, I'm going to sleep now, okay? And I'm like, okay, Mom, you can go ahead and go to sleep. Do you want me to go ahead and leave? She's like, yeah, they're going to put me in a room. I'm cool. I'm just gonna sleep. Like, okay. So I was like, give me a kiss for Daisy, give me a kiss for Violet, give me a kiss for Minkus. And she even gave me a kiss for me. And I was like, okay, you be good and you listen to what the doctors say. Okay, I will. Well, when the nurse had come in, she was like, oh yeah, she has a UTI. And she seemed really surprised. And she leaves, and Carl turns to me and goes, she was really surprised. He goes, I can smell it on her. You can tell that she has a UTI. You can tell by looking at her face that she has a UTI. You don't have to even know her to be able to tell that. And so, we're laughing about it. We're like, well, I guess we're all in the wrong field. Because that's the first thing that they used to test her for, is a UTI. Now they're like, oh, we're going to do a CAT scan. They didn't even do a CAT scan. All that trouble with Jaga, all they did was an x-ray and a catheter. And drew blood, probably. And found out that her white blood cells are high. Well, yeah, her white blood cells are high because she's fighting an infection. So they gave her some antibiotic that started with an R. I recognize the name to hear it, but I couldn't pronounce it to save my life right now unless it was written in front of me. They did that, gave her the IV, then her IV washed into it turned red. Blood was flowing back into it because it was empty. So the kid came in, we hit the button and they turned it off and nobody was coming. So Carl was like, oh hell no. So he presses the button again. He's like, they better show up. And he was getting mad because he was like, y'all better take care of my mama. And he didn't say it like that, obviously. I'm like, I got this, Carl. And he's like, but I wanna stay. And Mary's like, come on, Carl. I'm like, all right, I got this. So finally this kid comes in and he's like, so what's the problem? I was like, well, her IV is backwashing into, her blood is backwashing into the IV. He's like, okay. He's like, it's not a big deal. It's because I'm like, I understand the principle. I'm telling you this so that you can fix it. So he clamped everything off, took the bag off, and, sorry, I let my hair down and didn't brush it. He's like, okay, well, I will go ahead, and he did all the things, flushed it in, gave her almost a whole tube of the saline, just to get it to flush, reclamped her and make sure that everything was good. Then I called this morning, and here's the other thing. I told the nurse practitioner last night. They said, well, she should probably see a neurologist. I'm like, she's seen 2 neurologists since last year. One of which I will not go back to. And if he sees her here, I'm going to flip shit. I'm going to flip the hell out. Well, which doctor? Was it doctor? And she said the doctor's name. Because there's two neurologists that are hospital list doctors. And I'm like, the first one. That's the doctor. Because I was going to say his name. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if that's the right name. And as soon as she said it, I was like, okay. Because she's seen so many doctors. It's, said his name. And I was like, that's him. I was like, he's not to see my mom. He screwed her up so bad last year. He took her off her Namenda. He took her off all her psych meds. All of her psych meds. And then was like, wow, she had a psychotic break. We're going to send her home. You're going to what? You're going to put her back on those meds, right? Before you send her home? Oh, yeah, we'll do that. Meanwhile, she was off her meds for 2 days, flipped shit on the nurses. They had to tie her to the bed. It was that bad. These are meds that she actually needs. She's in there because she's fighting a UTI. She had constant UTIs last year. I finally got her into a urologist and started cathing her. And as soon as we started cathing her, the UTIs went away. Well, we noticed she did start, she was still getting them occasionally, once every 2 months, 3 months. And they were starting to get further and further apart. Well, she was still waking up completely saturated and usually 2 or 3 diaper changes through the day where she was completely, drenched. And it was cool in our apartment because we had wood floors, so we could just wipe that up, soak, mop the floor real quick. It was good because the whole way in until you hit her carpeted room, was tile or wood floors, that wood laminate. Okay, well, now we're in a house and everything's carpet. Like everything's carpet. The whole first floor, except for her bathroom and our kitchen, is all carpet. Why anybody would put carpet in the dining room is beyond me, but whatever. So I'm like, okay, we get her up every couple hours. I just ask that you go and try. No other reason, just to try, check your diaper, make sure that you didn't go a little bit because you can't feel it. She always throws a fit about it, and she's like, I don't have to go. Well, the other day it was, I thought you said you didn't have to go. Well, yeah, you didn't have to go because you already went. So this urologist had us start doing caths. Well, I'm the one who caths her, who caths her, and we stopped finally in like October, November. I think I've had a catheter like once since October, and it was sometime in December when she hadn't peed for like 2 days, and she woke up dry, which was amazing. But I was worried because she hadn't actually gone, which is why we put her in a potty chair, so she can't flush, she can't get rid of it or any way, shape, or form. That way we know how much she's gone. But her diapers were dry and everything, and I'm like, okay, this isn't making any sense. So I cast her, and she had like she filled bag. I'm like, okay, and it, average female bladder holds 375 milliliters on average. But she can retain up to 1,000. When we went to the urologist, they were amazed with how much she retains. I do her cathing by myself. No problem. Every time she goes to the hospital, they always send 2 nurses in, and it usually takes them 10, 15 minutes to cath her. I could do that in less than 5 minutes, even with the prep. The prep's not hard. It's a kit. You put it on the bed between her legs, you take everything out, you wipe and swab everything you need to do, you switch, put the second pair of gloves on over the first pair of gloves, because you can't, cross-contaminate, whatever. I get it. It's hard. But when you're sending 2 female nurses in who should know where that part of the body is, I'd rather have the male nurse that they sent the one time. They sent me 1 nurse. I was like, I'll hold her legs for you. Because she tends to, if she's laying down, I think that her belly fat pushes down on her bladder, which makes it a little bit harder to get in there. So I get that. That guy, he was like, well, just stand there, and if I need you, you're here. I gloved up. We're good. Cathed her in, out, got the sample, no problem. Easy. 5 minutes. Why does it take 2 nurses 15 to cath? It shouldn't. Period. It shouldn't take anybody that long. Not when I do it by myself. I have her sit on the potty chair to do it. Take the bucket, put it underneath her, in case, to catch anything in case she goes before I cath her. I sit on the floor in front of the potty chair, have her put her feet on my knees so that I just get down, no problem. I should have been a nurse. I should have been a doctor or a nurse. I really should have. Well, in September, the doctor and I were talking, and I said, you know what? She's on this oxybutynin. And back when she was, I want to say it was like 2 years ago, I started noticing it over the past year, that the oxybutynin is like the Vesicare type medication where it's supposed to give you control over when you go. It's supposed to help you feel it when you're supposed to go. It's not supposed to be a nerve deadening thing. It's supposed to help you control it. It's not supposed to stop you from going. It's supposed to help you control it. Well, a couple years ago, they had put her on Lasix, which is, for those of you who don't know, a water pill. It's supposed to make you go. It makes you pee constantly. She had CHF, and that is the go-to drug for CHF, which is congestive heart failure. She had water around her heart, and that's how they get rid of it. They use Lasix. I totally understand. I get it. You use the same drug for everybody, no matter what their medical history is. But you probably should check, make sure that they're not on a urine control. It is my opinion that being on the Lasix, she's on the Lasix for about 6 weeks, if not longer. Might have been closer to 2 months. If you're on that, I think that it makes taking the other medication a moot point. After that, her medication stopped working. The meds just, she was retaining so much urine in her bladder and not releasing, and this medication was not allowing her to release completely, because your sphincter helps clench everything. Well, like they said, they looked in her bladder and everything. They scoped her. They checked everything out. They said, I don't understand what's going on. Like, even the urologist was like, we'll just cath her. Okay. I learned how to cath. Got it right on my first try. It was really easy. Granted, I had observed for a couple times. When she's been in the hospital, I've helped them. I've held her legs open. Whatever. So, in September, I mentioned it to the doctor. I was like, I think that we need to de-seed this oxybutynin. We need to stop the oxybutynin. She's like, why? Like, I don't think it's working. She's soaked every morning. And she's taking it twice a day. She's taking it BID. It makes no sense to me to be on this medication that's not doing its job. She goes, is it that bad? I'm like, saturated. Straight through to the gel pad. Like, completely soaked. And she's got 5 plastic bed pads plus a cloth bed pad. Her sheet is like dripping wet. Her clothes are soaked. The bed's soaked. I'm like, it's not doing its job. And she's at that point she was going during the day. Okay, let's stop the medication. I'm like, okay, cool. Stop the medication, no problem. Easy peasy. And then I had to stop, and then I just stopped cathing her because she was going. She knew, like, within a week or two, I want to say it was like about a week and a half, she came out, ate her breakfast, drank some water, then all of a sudden she's like, standing up, and I'm like, why are you standing up? Where are you going? She's like, I have to go to the bathroom. And she was like, I have to go to the bathroom. I'm like, okay, go ahead, go. She with her little walker, walked down the hallway, went to her room, sat on the potty chair, pulled her pants down. She had a little bit in her diaper, sat down in that toilet, and peed. It was like a baby going to the bathroom on the potty for the first time. I was like, oh my God, you peed on the toilet, yay, Gold Star. Like, I made a big deal about it because it was a big deal. And I think I was even texting Mary going, Mom peed on the toilet, yay! Like, and she was excited because she could finally feel it. Now, because we've had so many changes and she's battling the UTI, she doesn't have that sensation of going. She doesn't realize when she's gone. And needless to say, it's like, what do we do? She's not emptying all the way at night. She wasn't emptying at all the last couple of days. She just would go to bed, and as soon as she laid down, her body would relax, and her bladder would relax, and it would finally release. So I was like, you know what, that's fine, but you can't lay in it. You can't, you need to get up, and I need to change your bed, and she doesn't want to get up in the morning. She's like, I don't want to get up. I want to sleep a little bit longer. Okay, cool. Like, but Mom, you're wet. You have to get up. Like, if she's sleeping past 11, I'm like, Mom, it's time to get up. You have to get up. So she usually grumpily is like, okay, I guess I gotta get up. But when it all comes down to it, the past 2 days have been just, like, I literally have cried more in the last 2 days, and I have been so stressed, like my heart keeps palpitating because of the sheer stress of it. And I can't. There are times when I just can't. And like, I know the past 2 weeks I've been posting on my personal Facebook, like, I can't people today. I'm not bullshitting. I can't people. And like, some people will laugh at that. There are moments when you just can't people. The only person who really understands because she's seen me, like, is Mary and Carl. Those are the only people who really get it because they've seen me not being able to people when I was at the dollar store. When I was working at the dollar store, oh my god. When I would not be able to people, it was the worst. So they've literally seen me at my absolute worst. Where I'm like, I cannot do this. There's a kid who used to come into the store and his dad, and he knows who he is because when I tell this story, he will laugh. I had to pee so bad, and this is at the point where I was like not peopling at all. And to be not peopling, and to be a people person who's not peopling, and a very social person, and not be able to people is, and a lot of people don't realize this. I'm very introverted. What you see is usually not who I am. Like, even my friends, they know the real me versus the peopling Melissa. Like, the peopling Melissa is oh, hi, and I'm fun, and the real Melissa's like, fuck you. And your horse, out. Get the, out. That's the real Melissa. The real Melissa has a serious attitude and doesn't take no shit from anyone. Not peopling Melissa. Yeah. So, this kid came in the store, him and his dad, and I finally, after like 6 hours, got a break. And I had to pee so bad, and I called the boss up like 3 times, and I was like, I have to pee. And finally I told her, I said, I don't even remember who the boss, I think it might have been the assistant a long time ago. This is a while ago. I was like, I have to pee, and I have to pee now. And if you don't let me go use the restroom, I'm gonna piss in the fucking garbage can. Go. So I come around the counter, and the dad's standing there, and he's like he's in my way. And I'm like, oh my fucking god. Behaving myself. I'm like, I gotta pee. So I go down the card aisle, which is the next aisle, and the kid is standing there. And he's like, and I'm like, really? And I look down, and he's got this bright-ass pink cast on his leg, and he's on crutches. I'm like, bitch, I will break your other fucking leg. Get the fuck out of my way. Loud as hell. In uniform, I didn't care. To hell with the code. I had pee. I hadn't had a break in 6 hours. So he's like, gets out of my way. I go pee. I come back out, and I apologize. I said, I'm sorry. And they're like, no, we totally get it, you know, et cetera, et cetera. They're like, it's cool. It's cool. And luckily, they were the kind of people who weren't going to, like, call corporate and be like, this bitch. Because I had people who did that to me. They were like, this girl did this and did that. And I'm like, when? I don't do half this stuff on duty. People bitch about whoever. I had people who thought I was a different employee, and I was getting blamed for it. I was getting write-ups for it. It's like, this is turning into a video of me bitching. Just bitching. Just bitching. But it's okay. And you know what? I'm not going to edit this video. This is going to be the longest video you will ever see from me, probably. Well, I wouldn't say ever see from me. Because it's already almost 45, it's 44 minutes and 5 seconds long. And plus when I add my beginning and ending. So yeah, whatever. Deal with it. Anyway, so I'm not peopling very well. And I haven't been. And luckily I have very supportive friends who get it. And I've already told my one girlfriend, I said, I don't know who's going to get it. But I'm going to snap. So I'm apologizing ahead of time to whoever. And I'm doing it now too. Whoever I snap on, I'm sorry. Usually Dan gets the snap. But he gets it. Like, he just lets me vent. And he's like, are you done? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, are you sure? Fuck no, I'm not. and then I start crying, and it's just all bad. But Dan understands. He knew that before he married me, so I kind of lucked out with that. But I have a funny feeling it's going to be one of my friends that winds up with the snap because I'm here by myself. My mom has gotten the snap. Dan's gotten the snap. I don't think Mary's ever gotten the snap because Mary gets it and she's just like, "Oh, honey, it's okay. It's okay." I don't think because Mary makes me laugh so hard, and so does Carl. They've never gotten the snap. But I know that there's a few people who have gotten it. Like people I've worked with have gotten the snap. And it's not often that somebody outside of my circle gets the snap, but I know somebody's going to get the snap, and I apologize ahead of time because I'm just not peopling. And by that, I mean I am absolutely not peopling. I don't want to talk on the phone. I don't want to text. I don't want to Facebook message you. I want to be by myself. Now I have this, and now I'm being productive. Absolutely being productive, and I'm going to go through a couple boxes today, and that's what I'm going to do. So, this morning, I had a phone call. Now, keep in mind, I told the nurse practitioner, I said, I don't want this doctor, we're going to call him Dr. X. I don't want Dr. X to see my mom. I don't want him to step foot in her room. I don't want him to treat her. I don't want him to even look at her. Okay, why? Told her why. Okay, I'll make sure it's noted. Well, obviously, somebody didn't do their job. So, somebody didn't do their job. So, I was like, okay, phone call this morning, Geauga Hospital. Cool. Hello? And as soon as he started talking, I knew exactly which doctor it was. Because he has a very distinct accent, and he's the only doctor who would have seen her with that accent at that hospital. I know all the doctors, all the nurses, pretty much all the nurses. She's in Overflow, so I don't really know too many of the nurses down in Overflow, but if she was in 2 South, oh, man. She goes to 2 South, she gets spoiled. Because all those nurses they treated her all last year, with the exception of the one time she was in Overflow. But they know her. Like if they see me in the hospital to visit somebody else, they're like, "Where's mom?" We stopped by because we went to go visit my neighbor, and we stopped by, and then on our way back through, we went out the front way, so we had to go past the 2 South. Did I say 2 North? 2 South nurses wing, and they're like, "Laura, how are you doing?" To talking to her, how you feeling? Oh, your hair looks so nice. I love your headband. She always has cute headbands. I'm like, okay, cool, But she's in Overflow, so I don't really know the nurses. But when this doctor calls, I'm like, hello? I was in the middle of doing my makeup and cleaning the counter in the bathroom upstairs, and he's like, this is Dr. X. I'm just calling to get a history of your mom. I was just in to see her, and I just want to get a history, da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop you right there because I very, very specifically told the nurse last night that I did not want you to see my mom. I have a neurologist, and you will not be treating my mom. Okay, I understand. Hangs up. Oh, fuck no. You did not just say, okay, I understand, and hang up on me? The person you called? You're not going to ask why or say, so I call the nurse's station in Overflow. I'm like, hey, so Laura Hovanak is my mom, and Dr. X just called me and said that he was in to see her. I very specifically told the nurse practitioner last night I do not want him to see her. I don't want him to step foot in her room. I don't want him to look at her, anything. Okay, no problem. I'll make sure it's noted in her chart. Really? You're going to make sure it's noted in her chart just like the nurse practitioner did last night? Sorry. I got really aggravated. So I'm in the middle of texting Mary, who had a shrew or mole or possibly a vole in her house this morning. So she's like breaking out in hives over this. I'm like, so let me tell you what happened. Because I knew she would at least get a laugh. I'm like, put me on speakerphone so Carl can hear me. I told him, I was like, remember I specifically said Dr. X is not supposed to see her. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I remember. I was right there. I guess you called me. What? Like, yeah. So he goes, call the ombudsman. I was like, I was planning on it. I was like, but I was calling you guys first because, that and the fact that I had to find out about this shrew or mole or whatever in the house. Which they think they figured out what room it went into. She was in the bathroom and it came out from behind her and she like grabbed a bucket and screamed and was like, and went to catch it and it was gone and it went underneath the door and they think it went into one of the kids' rooms and so they're gonna catch and release, hopefully. And either that or one of the cats or dogs, whatever. So we're discussing all this. Get off the phone, call the ombudsman. I'm like, look, this is what happened. So she lets me tell her, like, she answered the phone, this is da-da-da-da, patient advocate, etc., etc. I'm like, cool. So my mom, Laura Hovanak, she's down in overflow. I very specifically, she came in last night to the ER, or yesterday to the ER, and for a UTI, and they were going to admit her because they have to give her antibiotics because she's a fall risk, and it'll make you dizzy, because they have to give her such strong antibiotics. They admitted her. I very specifically said that this doctor is not to see her, and this doctor called me this morning. Oh, let me get your number. What's your name? Because she's like, is your last name Hovanak? I was like, no, my last name's Scanner. But I don't, I'll answer either one. Doesn't matter because I still answer to both of them. I still answer to my ex-husband's name. I'm like, yeah. Why was this doctor calling me? Yeah, like, I'm floored. Sorry, there's a dog. I have attention deficit Ushangi. Did you see it too? Yeah, it's a little dog. She's like, let me call you back. So I called her, phone log. I called her at 12:50. It is now 1:48. So we will see when they call me back. And I told her, I was like, my phone volume's turned up. So yeah, my crappy phone. I have to get a new one. Stop. Say hello. So needless to say, and I say needless a lot. So obviously, if it's needless to say, I shouldn't say it, right? Are you speaking to them? Tell them, say, I am a violet. So, yeah, that's been my stressful life. And I made myself pretty. I even put my contacts in, my awesome aqua contacts from Pinky Paradise. And then this morning I woke up and there was like 2 inches of snow. So I shoveled the steps because I had to go take a small bag of garbage out to the garbage can. And then I was on the phone with Mary and I said, there's more snow. My steps are covered again. Like, my steps are covered. That's the great outdoors. My steps are covered again. I don't know how well you can see that because I turned that around. I decided this is a good spot because it's light. Whoa! The wind just blew so hard it blew the snow off the railing on the porch. So, but yeah, this has just been a venting video, and I'm sure there will be many more venting videos, and hopefully they won't be an hour I apologize. If you're still watching, if you're still there, are you still there? Thank you. Thank you for letting me vent. Thank you for being amazing people. And thank you to my friends and my family who are awesome. And I've had I cut myself back to 1 cup of coffee a day. I've had 2 today. I feel like a slug now. So I'm going to go be a slug for the rest of the day. I'll probably go through some boxes actually. Maybe bring a bookshelf upstairs or something. Maybe I'll go upstairs and start peeling adhesive off the walls. Oh. What do we say? What do we say? What do we say, Violet? Do we say, I'm a Violet? Oh. Oh. Apparently there's a Daisy. Daisy, what do we say? What do we say? Do we say, oh! Ruff. Ruff. Speak. 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 Listen. Not a dog. You are not a dog. Oh, I have a text message. Alright, so I'm going to go edit this, maybe. I'll probably won't because I'm lazy. So. I was going to text message from Mary, so. Who's my she told me I have to do this. So, yeah. I'm going to go now. Bye.